Assalamu alaikum guys. So today's video is a simple guide on entering Palestine from the Jordanian border. And this is a video mainly based around my experiences going from Jordan to Palestine. And it's a simple guide mainly of getting from the city of Amman to Jerusalem. This video isn't covering how to get into Gaza. This is mainly my experiences, what I went through, and it's like a simple guide. So this is for someone that wants to visit Palestine and isn't sure about how to actually go about it. And also for someone that might be curious about traveling in the future. If this isn't you, I would say maybe skip the video and watch my Palestine video in the description below. That actually shows how it is, and maybe that will convince you to take this trip. So this video is going to be a little bit longer, but if you are traveling there, this will be really beneficial for you, so you know what to expect and what you'll go through as a traveler. Actually, right before getting started, I just want to mention, so one of these concerns that was on my mind before traveling to Palestine was actually, is my passport going to get stamped when I leave from Jordan? So as you know, with the current situation, you go through Jordan and then you go through Israeli border control, and then you get to enter the city of Jerusalem. So yeah, this was a concern on my mind. So what I found was actually when you leave from the King Hussein bridge towards the Allenby terminal, they don't stamp your passport. And also when you go through the Israeli checkpoint as well, they don't stamp your passport there either. So this is just something to keep in mind, because as you know, a lot of countries don't have diplomatic relations with Israel, and this also can impact your Hajj if your passport was to get stamped. So I just thought I'd make that clear, because that's a very critical point if you are going towards Palestine and all. So yeah, this video is going to be broken down into 3 points. The first one being the experience going through the Jordanian border, the experience going through the Israeli side, and then just the return for both of them. So inshallah, we'll get started. So we left the city of Amman at about 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and we arrived at the King Hussein terminal at about 8 a.m, including a few stops on the way to get some light snacks and water and whatnot. So the thing is, there is 3 entry points from Jordan into the Palestinian side. So the one we took was the King Hussein bridge / Allenby terminal entry point. And this one we found was easier, and we were told that it would be a lot easier than the other ones. So when you arrive at the Jordanian side of it, there's actually 2 options. So one is the standard service that costs about 10 dinar, and then you have the VIP service, which is about 100 dinar. So I guess you're wondering what the main differences are. As a traveler, when I go traveling, I'm not really a fan of this whole VIP thing, so I went with the standard service. Keep in mind, if you go with a VIP service, this would be good if you don't speak Arabic as a first language, if you don't like waiting on long lines, and you really want to know what's going on. So that's where the VIP service comes in. I took the standard service. Also, it's a lot cheaper as well, 10 dinar. Well, 10 dinar at the time when we were there. So this is the process I went through. So first thing, when you arrive, you get your passport. There's a little paper you have to fill out with your passport details, your nationality, I think date of birth, and then you have to have 10 dinar, and you have to hand it to the person at the counter. So the reason why there's a big difference between this and the VIP service is because when you're waiting at the line, right? So you get to the front of the line, and then you think you're at the front of the line, and then the person that's behind the counter just like closes their thing and goes over to the next one. And then when you get to the front of that one, again, it gets closed and it goes over to the next one. So there's about 3 like glass windows, and it's only 1 person on them. They don't actually close it down, but that's what it feels like, because you get to the front of the line, you're like all happy you finally made it to the front of the line, and they don't even look up, like they'll be looking at their passport, whatever they're doing, and they don't even acknowledge you're there. So I found this was something that in that actual location was very common. So the people didn't acknowledge you were there. So what would happen is, when you got to the front of the line, if they did look up, someone would hand their passport and that paper and the 10 dinar over your shoulder. So although you were at the front, you were getting bypassed. And this happened constantly. What we actually ended up doing was, my mate went in one line, I went in the other. And then when we got to the front, I handed it over to him, and he just quickly put it over someone else's like shoulder, and we got it in. So that's how you got your passport and your details all checked by the border control on the Jordanian side. In all honesty, this was complete mayhem, and this isn't something, yeah, if this is something that would make you frustrated, I would definitely say go for the VIP service, because yeah, that wasn't fun at all. So definitely go for the VIP service. But if you don't mind waiting, you don't mind being confused, and if you can't speak Arabic like myself, yeah, this one was that's kind of how it ended up being. So once they take your passport, then they tell you to actually go head out onto the bus, and then at that point they hold onto your passport. And then when you're on the bus, someone on the bus will actually ask you for the fee. So the fee was another 10 dinar, and then also it was about 7 dinar per bag. So keep in mind that this might vary depending on your bag size and how many bags you have. I had a small backpack, and that's what they charge for it. And then at this point, when the guy on the bus has calculated all the expenses and all, and he's taken everyone's bus, the shuttle fee and the bag fee, the officer from inside will come onto the bus and he'll start handing out your passports to everyone. So at this point you get your passport, and then you have a green ID, a green exit like visa card or something. So they stamp that instead of stamping your passport. And then once you have this, it's about a 20-minute drive towards the Allenby terminal. Yeah, when you arrive there, either it's open or it's not. We waited a little while for the Israeli side to open, and then we were waiting there for it to open, and yeah, and then when we got there, we started the process for the Israeli side. So now let me explain how it was for this side. The other one was completely, it was like complete chaos, and it was like mayhem, right? Because like you don't know what's going on. And this one was a little bit more organized, but what you find is, although it's organized, I think it's like, you'll notice it's a bit too organized, like as in, like when I was going in, so you walk in and you got VIP service and standard. Once again, I went for standard, but in this situation I found they were both going at the same pace. You get to the front counter, and as I was getting towards the front counter, I was actually looking at what was happening. So the person behind the counter was actually putting stickers on the passport, and then for everyone else, you could see that on one side she was grabbing the stickers, and then when we got to the front counter, she actually grabbed a sticker from the other side, and then from there she gave our passport back. And then when we went to the second window, someone kind of just looked at the passport, and then I think they saw the number, and then they told us to sit down and wait. So that number on the passport, they give that sticker, actually determines whether you'll sit down or whether you'll be allowed through or what happens there. So with that one there, then we had to wait for our bag, and then she was holding onto the passport, so she handed it to the person that was looking at the bags. And then as they were doing that, they were also doing some like rubbing the passport for like, I don't know if it was UV system or something, but pretty much she would walk over to one side, rub the passport, come over, do something else, and then come again, rub it, and then it was something like that. So I don't know if that's to check for like drug residue or what it was, but that's what we experienced there. And then after this, they give your passport back, you get your bags, and then you go towards the final entrance exit point. So this is actually the point where you're supposed to get your exit stamp, so your entrance stamp, and then you go into the city or towards the city, and that's what happens. Obviously for us, it wasn't that easy. We got to the front counter, she asked us a few questions, you know, where are you from, what's your intention here, all those standard questions. And then she asked us to fill out a form, like an A4 paper. This A4 paper kind of had standard details on it, plus a little bit more. So it's like, once again, so where you're from, where have you been in the last 5 years, your nationality, your father's name, grandfather's name, all these extra details that kind of to determine, I guess, yeah, who you are as a person. So once we filled out this form, then we went back to that counter again, and then at this point she had the passport and the A4 paper, and she told us to sit down. And then I think it was like an hour or something passed by, like no one actually came to speak with us for a little while. And then at that point, so we were waiting there for probably like an hour or so, or maybe more, until someone came out and had a chat with us. So for me, the guy called me to the side, and then he started asking me questions once again. So this wasn't some like nice interaction or something. It was like the tone was quite rude as well. So it was like, take off your bag, put it on the floor, and like, it wasn't like, hey, can you please, you know, put your bag on the side while we talk with you. It was like, it was literally like that, like, take off your bag, put it on the floor. And then they had me standing in front of a camera. I think it was 2 cameras actually. And there was one guy talking with me, there's one guy like on the side, so he was there, and then that's kind of the interaction. And then they ask you some really silly questions. Questions that on the street, if someone was to ask you these, it would actually provoke you, or it would sound like a form of harassment. Like, they were very rude questions, and my ones were mainly based around my roots as an Afghan, but for my friend, his questions were all based around religious questions. So yeah, whatever you go through, just keep in mind you have to have sabr. Like, you have to have patience, because they try their best to get you to react, and then that kind of gives them a reason to be like, oh, this guy might be a threat or something. So whatever they ask you, just give them a yes, no, and just, you know, you're there for traveling, you're there to just experience how it is in Jerusalem, and let them know that, and that should be fine, inshallah. Now, alongside those questions they ask you, also just the standard questions as well, which you should really have ready. So like your itinerary, your accommodation details, and the contact number for the accommodation person as well. Have those all readily available, because these are just questions that they will ask you regardless, and you should just have those on you for any country. So yeah, that's kind of how it was. And for me as well, like, once again with that tone, like when they asked me for my boarding pass, I was like, I don't have a boarding pass. I'm coming through from Jordan, so you don't get a boarding pass until like 24 hours before you're leaving. And he's like, no, give me your boarding pass, I want to see it. And I was like, okay, I'll show you my itinerary instead. So I pulled out the physical copy, and he didn't want to see that. And then I pretty much just brought up the exact same thing on my phone, and then they went through it, and they could see that I was traveling through like 6 or 7 countries at once. And then yeah, they kind of, I guess, ask questions about that too. I guess it was a little bit easier in that point, because it shows that my travels wasn't just like from like New Zealand to towards Palestine and then that's it. Like, I had a full return journey, so I went through multiple countries so they knew that my intent wasn't to stay there or whatever it was actually to go and leave and then come back. So that kind of does help as well, and that's the reason to have your itinerary on you. On top of this, they actually check your social media. So they check your Facebook, your Instagram. Luckily, all of my Instagram stuff is all travel photos, and it doesn't have my political views. Yeah, because as you know, I support Palestinian rights, and once again, this video is not about political side or any of that. It's just the experience around it. Maybe I'll touch on that in another video. There's another thing I want to touch on as well, which, I mean, it's not surprising, but every single person that was waiting on the side was a Muslim, and 100% this, like, I mean, that's proper discrimination right there. Like, it was only Muslims sitting down waiting for their passports and stuff to be checked. Like, we saw a group of like people come through, you can tell they're American because of the accent, and it was like literally like open arms, like, hey guys, you know, come in, don't worry about that, we'll sort that out, come through, you know. And they were through like within 2 minutes. But for us, no, it was a total of almost like 4 hours or over that. It pretty much took the whole day. So that was a very long time being stuck there. So after they ask you those questions stuff, they disappear again, and then someone comes back with your passport and a national ID card. So this national ID card is actually what you need while you're traveling around. And even to get into Masjid Aqsa, as a foreigner, they actually check that as well. Well, they checked it for me at both the checkpoints, and then they check your bag and all of that too. But yeah, that's what that national ID card is for. I didn't take a photo of that because I didn't realize that they're going to take it back when we were leaving, so that's why I don't actually have that. As a New Zealand citizen, I didn't have to pay any entrance fee, so I don't know if that's going to be the same case for you based on your visa or where you're traveling from. But yeah, once we went through, after this, around the corner over there, I think there was like a taxi shuttle as well, and it cost about 42 shekels, which wasn't too bad because there were other options there that were a lot more expensive. So this one actually takes you right towards the city of Jerusalem, and it was the Damascus Gate. So this is the point. Remember this location as well, because this will also be the location you go from. Now, after spending your time in Jerusalem and all the different cities there, you get to come back, and the exact same location, Damascus Gate. There is Al-Najma taxi shuttle service over there, and they are open from about 7 AM. So we did Fajr at about 4:30 AM at Masjid Al-Aqsa. So I think it was 4:30, it was very early in the morning. On the way towards the taxi, we grabbed like some nice fresh like bread and stuff, so it was really nice. And then when we came back towards the taxi, once again, it was 42 shekels plus 7 shekel for the small backpack again. And then from here they take you back to the Allenby terminal, and then from the Allenby terminal you have to pay an exit fee of about 182 shekels. So even with the New Zealand passport I had to pay this fee as well. And then once you're through there, they actually take your card as well, so you don't have the national ID card anymore. And then once you're through there, you get outside and then you have to pay for the shuttle service back to the Jordanian side, 2.5 dinar, and that's for your shuttle ride back. Once you're at the Jordanian side again, then you might have to pay for your entrance visa. Luckily for us we didn't, because we had something called a Jordan pass. And I don't know if I've touched on this on my videos yet. I might touch on it on a future one, but you need a Jordan pass when arriving in Jordan. The reason I say this is because the Jordan pass actually includes your entry visa, your exit visa, multiple entrance and exit from the Jordanian side to Palestine and back. And also it gives you access to all those tourist locations as well. So I believe like Petra and a few of the other ones are also included in there as well. It kind of saves you a lot of money and a lot of time as well, because when you get back to that border on the Jordanian side, the border officer actually grabs everyone's passports. So they come onto the bus, they get the passports, and then what happens is when you go inside, that's when they go, okay, you have a Jordan pass, and you show them, sweet. And then at this point you get your passport back and you can leave. And if you're someone that didn't have the Jordan pass, I think they like you have to pay for the fee there, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, that was my experience. Obviously experience might be a little bit different for you. You might have it easier, you might have it harder. We met someone in Turkey who told us he was stuck there for 13 hours. It's different for every single person, and it might just be because they are searching you up in the background. So the person that we met in Turkey, he's actually a well-known speaker. So they might have been going through his videos or something to find one thing that kind of gives them a valid reason to not let him in. But at the end, when you go in, regardless whether it's 2 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, when you go to Masjid al-Aqsa, that peaceful feeling, you totally forget about the whole wait at the border. So definitely this might be a way for them to actually like make you not want to go, but 100% I'm hoping this video has convinced you to actually visit Palestine and support the locals there. So yeah, if you did have any questions and I missed something, drop a comment below. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it around with friends, because it's your support that actually keeps these videos coming out. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon as well. That way we can grow this community together and I can see what you guys want and hopefully work off that as well. Until next time guys, you just have a good one. Assalamu alaikum.